Okay, so you know how we always say we're going to deep dive into a topic?
Mhm.
Well, get ready, because today we're tackling the Medici.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I know what you're thinking.
hmm
Powerful banking family doesn't exactly scream like riveting podcast material.
Right, right.
But the Medici,
Yeah.
they were different. You sent over some stuff from their Wikipedia page, and let me tell you, this family,
Yeah.
they weren't just counting coins. They were practically sculpting Florence into the Renaissance powerhouse it became.
They were the influencers of their time, absolutely. But their story,
Yeah.
it's about more than luxury and art. It's a front row seat to how power, even with good intentions, right,
Right.
can have some seriously complicated consequences.
And to think, it all started with something as well as ordinary as wool. You're telling me this family, the one rubbing elbows with popes and commissioning masterpieces from like the greatest artists ever,
Yeah.
they got their start in the wool trade.
That's right, the Medici. They're the ultimate rags to riches story.
Wow.
We're talking 13th century Mugello region, so that's rural, north of Florence. And what really kicks things off for them is the downfall of another big banking family, the Bonsignori from Siena.
So 1298, Bonsignori Empire goes bust, and suddenly Florence is the place to be if you're in banking.
Exactly.
Talk about good timing.
Right.
Well, hold on. Before we hand over the keys to the city, wasn't it already a powerful family in Florence? The Albuzzi?
Ah, yes, the Albizzis. They were old money.
Okay.
The established power in Florence for decades. And let me tell you, they were not thrilled about these Medici coming in, gaining influence.
Oh, I bet. So how did the Medici manage to, like, navigate that whole power struggle?
They were smart about it.
Yeah.
Strategic marriages, to solidify alliances,
Right.
building a network of support. They even faced exile Cosimo de' Medici in the early 1400s.
Exile. Wow. That's a pretty strong move from the Albizzi.
Yeah.
They must have seen Cosimo as a real threat to actually kick him out of Florence like that.
Oh, they did. Cosimo was a problem for them.
But I'm guessing they weren't expecting him to make a comeback.
Well, Cosimo was nothing if not persistent,
Okay.
right? And he knew the key wasn't just money.
Right.
You need the people on your side.
Oh, absolutely.
So he builds this reputation as a fair leader, savvy businessman, but also someone who used his wealth to benefit Florence. So when the opportunity came, the people were ready to welcome him back, pushed the Albizzi right out. That was the start of the Medici reign in Florence.
And this is where I think the Medici really set themselves apart. They understood that power wasn't just about how much money you had. It was about influence. It was
Yeah.
about shaping culture.
100%. And they weren't just throwing money around, they were strategic about it.
Yeah.
Donatello, Fra Angelico, Botticelli, these weren't just random artists. They handpicked the people who would define the Renaissance.
It's like they were curating a legacy, not just for themselves, but for Florence. They really understood. Art, knowledge, that's what lasts.
Right.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, right?
Of course not.
Yeah.
We're talking about a family with ambitions as big as their bank accounts. There are bound to be some hiccups.
Oh, I bet.
And as we head into the late 15th, early 16th centuries, things get even more interesting. It starts with Lorenzo the Magnificent. He's the ultimate Renaissance man. But that lifestyle, it came with a price tag.
Lorenzo, the poet, the politician, the art patron,
Exactly.
maybe not so great with a budget.
Let's just say, Lorenzo knew how to make an entrance. Grand festivals, over-the-top construction, attracting the brightest minds. All of that costs money.
Yeah, it does.
And the Medici Bank, they were facing competition, taking bigger risks.
Oh,
Lorenzo, he solidified his legacy, but he also left the family finances stretched pretty thin.
I bet those strained resources didn't make him any friends among his rivals. Because something tells me the Pazzi family weren't disagreeing with his economic policies over a friendly game of chess. And I'm just going to remind everyone listening, they tried to assassinate Lorenzo and his brother.
Oh yeah, the Patazzi conspiracy. Things really came to a head. We're not talking about a disagreement here. This was a full-blown plot to take down the Medici. Rival families, angry nobles, even whispers about the Pope being involved.
Hold on, the Pope.
Yep.
Now that is some serious drama.
It was huge. They planned to strike during Easter Sunday Mass at the Duomo.
Easter Sunday in church. You're kidding? That's cold.
It shocked all of Florence. Giuliano, Lorenzo's brother, was killed, stabbed multiple times. Lorenzo barely escaped.
Oh, wow. I can't even imagine the aftermath of something like that. But the Medici, they just kept going. And then they pull off what I can only describe as the ultimate power move.
Mm-hmm.
Not one, but two Medici popes.
Mm.
Leo X and then Clement VII.
Ooh.
Talk about keeping it in the family.
Remarkable, isn't it? But being a Medici pope, it wasn't exactly a walk in the park.
Right.
They had this legacy of power, but they were also leading the Catholic Church. During a time of huge change, questioning of authority, it was a tightrope walk.
Oh, absolutely. On one hand, you've got this family history of being power players,
Right.
shaping the world around them, and on the other, you're leading the church during one of the most tumultuous periods in history.
Yeah.
No pressure or anything, right?
No pressure at all. Imagine that. Family legacy on one side, spiritual leadership on the other. And don't forget, this is all happening while Europe is going through this explosion of art and scientific discoveries.
Right.
And where are the Medici during all of this?
Yeah.
Right in the thick of it.
They really couldn't escape their legacy if they tried.
No.
Take Cosimo I becomes Duke of Florence, what, mid-1500s?
Yeah.
And he's not content with just being a banker.
Yeah.
Or even a political player, really.
Wow.
He wants to cement the Medici name. Like, make it mean something, unite all of Tuscany under his rule.
Wow.
We're talking about a family that went from trading wool to ruling a duchy.
Talk about ambition.
Serious ambition.
But even with their dukes and duchesses, the Medici commitment to arts and science never went away.
And we can't talk about the Medici without mentioning their connection to, wait for it, Galileo.
Oh, of course.
And I don't mean like a casual, hey, nice telescope kind of relationship.
Yeah, you're...
What was their actual connection?
Okay, so Galileo, practically family,
Really?
close friend, served as a tutor to some of the Medici children.
Wow.
And get this, he named some of Jupiter's moons after them.
No way. Okay, you have to tell me more about these moon names. What were they? How does that even work?
All right, so we know them today as Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto.
Right.
When Galileo dedicated his findings to Cosimo II, he called them the Medicean stars.
Wow. What a power move.
Yeah.
Aligning your discoveries with, like, the Medici name. That's genius. Though I'm guessing not everyone was thrilled about that.
Well, the church wasn't exactly over the moon, so to speak, about Galileo's findings in general.
Right.
Especially since they challenged, church teachings at the time.
Right. Cue the whole Galileo being accused of heresy situation.
Exactly.
Not a great look for the Medici if they were seen as protecting an enemy of the church.
It was definitely a complicated situation. The Medici, devout Catholics as they were, couldn't exactly go shielding Galileo from the Inquisition, but
Right.
they supported him for years, providing him with resources, a place to work. And, well, his discoveries. They totally revolutionized how we see the cosmos, even if it took the world a while to catch up.
Definitely a complicated situation.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that even the most powerful families have their own, like, internal struggles, controversies.
Yeah.
But all dynasties change.
Mm.
What ultimately led to the decline of the Medici? Was it bad investments, power struggles, maybe a case of too much of a good thing?
It's never just one thing, is it?
Right.
The Medici, they tried, but they couldn't escape the fact that the world was changing.
Yeah.
By the 17th century, the economic landscape of Europe, totally different.
Yeah.
The Medici Bank, once the envy of, well, everyone, they were facing serious competition.
Wow.
And even their control over Tuscany's resources, not enough to, hold back the tide forever.
So the family business was struggling. Were there any, like, savvy investors in the later generations, or were those Medici instincts for business and power starting to fade?
Let's just say not every Medici was born to play the game of finance and politics.
Right.
There were a few, of course.
Yeah.
Ferdinand II, he kept up the family tradition of investing in science and tech.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, the Medici were facing a new reality. Their power, not absolute anymore.
Well,
Their influence.
yeah.
Definitely waning.
It happened.
Internal conflicts, questionable leadership, and a few scandals sprinkled in, which, let's be honest, always a good topic for another deep dive sometime.
We're always here for a good scandal here on the deep dive.
Of course.
But it sounds like the Medici were facing that problem a lot of powerful families deal with. How do you maintain a legacy that's built on this, like, individual brilliance,
Right.
ambition, when the world around you changes?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, the Medici story is a human one. With all the grandeur and drama, we're talking about a family who tasted extraordinary power,
Yeah.
shaped history with their patronage, their ambition,
Mm.
but they were also vulnerable to the same things we all are. Flaws, rivalries, just plain bad luck.
And it's that very human element that makes their story so interesting. They were flawed, they were ambitious, sometimes ruthless, but they left behind a legacy that's undeniable.
Absolutely.
But for our listener, what's the key takeaway here? Because the Medici story spans centuries, it can feel kind of overwhelming.
That's true. It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
But if we zoom out a bit, what's fascinating is how this family, who started with almost nothing, managed to not only shape their own destinies, but the entire cultural landscape.
Right.
They remind us that power comes in many forms. It's
Yeah.
not just political, it's not just financial.
Really?
And they were masters of soft power.
Before it even had a name.
Exactly. They invested in beauty, in knowledge, in leaving a mark that would last longer than they would.
And I think that really resonates even today.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at what their patronage achieved.
Mm-hmm.
We're still blown away by Michelangelo's David,
Right.
still studying Galileo's work.
Right.
And all of that because one family knew how to invest in ideas, in talent, in creating something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
What will our legacy be? Will people remember us for the risks we took, the ideas we championed, the beauty we brought into the world? The Medici family motto was, Festina lente, make haste slowly.
I love that.
In a world that's obsessed with, like, instant results, maybe that's a lesson worth remembering.
Absolutely. A final thought for our listeners to ponder.
A perfect place to wrap up. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Medici.
Until next time.
It's like you said before, with the Medici, even with all the money and influence, it's really about what you create that matters.
It's true. The things that have a real impact.
Yeah. And the Medici, they understood that, even if they weren't perfect.
Right.
Think about it. The artists they supported, the thinkers. It wasn't just like, let's make the Medici name look good. They were shaping the whole feel of the Renaissance.
Absolutely. Picture Florence without the Duomo, without Michelangelo's David, without Galileo's discoveries. It's impossible.
No way.
The Medici left their mark on everything. Art, architecture, science. It's all part of Western civilization now because of them.
It really makes you wonder, what will our legacy be?
It does.
Will we be remembered for, creating beauty, sharing knowledge, taking risks to do something bigger than ourselves?
Those are the questions, right?
Right. And that's what's so cool about the Medici story. They remind us that real power isn't about how much you hoard. It's how you use it to, really impact the world.
Exactly. And sometimes that means going against the grain, challenging how things are usually done.
Yeah. Taking a chance on something amazing, just like their family motto, Festina lente, make haste slowly. It's such a good reminder, especially today when everything's got to happen so fast.
It's true. Maybe slowing down is something we should all think about a little more.
Right. It's something to ponder for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of the Medici.
Until next time.